Up next, Authentically Detroit welcomes legendary public relations executive Georgella Muirhead and Vice President of 98Forward Antonice Strickland to discuss how Georgella's career shaped Detroit's communications landscape and paved the way for the next generation of leadership at 98Forward. But first, this week's hot takes from the Motor City Contractor Fund and Bridge, Michigan. The Motor City Contractor Fund invites Detroit contractors to pursue the ultimate gift this holiday season: bigger, better business. And Michigan quickly deletes government chats, raising transparency questions. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts after these messages. Detroit 1 Million is a journalism project started by Sam Robinson that centers a generation of Michiganders growing up in a state without a city with 1 million people. Support the only independent reporter covering the 2025 Detroit mayoral race through the lens of young people. Good journalism costs. Visit Detroit1million.com to support Black independent reporting. Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from Detroit's East Side at the Stoudemire, inside of the East Side Community Network headquarters. I'm Orlando Bailey, and I want to thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people in the city of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Donna is out on vacation, and I would say a much-needed one, but I'm honored to wrap 2026 with the legendary Georgella Muirhead and Antonice Strickland, who are here to discuss Georgella's retirement and what that means for 98Forward moving forward. Georgella and Antonice, welcome back to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
How has the day been for you both? Antonice, how you doing? It's cold outside.
I'm cold. I told you when I got here.
It's ridiculous.
So cold.
And you would think we would be used to it because we live here. But every year we act so shocked. Like we didn't know winter was coming.
Every time. And I'm a winter baby, so I have zero excuses, but I can't. I'm ready to get to the South ASAP.
I know that's right. I'm going to the South.
But I'm doing well, though. It's
You're
just
doing
cold.
well?
Yes.
I just left the South. I was just in the South over the weekend. I was in Atlanta.
Nice.
And like Friday and Saturday, like 65. I was outside with no coat on.
Tank
and
top.
the sun. I don't know about no tank top. But it was nice. And I'm going back. I'll be in Florida first thing in January, like the first week out in January. I have to be in Florida. So
I might as well.
Yeah,
I got some family down there. And my birthday's at the top of the year. So
We'll hang out. Georgella, how's the day finding you? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I just don't travel like you guys. I'm going to be home.
Well, you want to know what's funny is back when 98Forward was formed, the two of you came on the podcast when we were recording at the WDET studios, and I happened to have been out of town working. And so Donna handled that interview. I think it was Antonice, Marilyn, and Georgella. Yep. And I was so jealous that like I was missing in action. And so I'm going to do everything in my power today to make Donna jealous because I got Georgella.
Well, first I'm going to correct you. It wasn't when we were formed. It was when we rebranded.
When you rebranded.
Because we're almost 30 years old.
Yes. Yep. She got to it first. I was.
That's right. If you're going to message it correctly.
You know, come on. I sent the talking points.
Right. Okay, my bad. All right, it's time for Hot Takes, where we run down some of the week's top headlines in the city of Detroit. But first, here is something that we want you to know. The Motor City Contractor Fund invites Detroit contractors to pursue the ultimate gift this holiday season: bigger and better business. With the January 30th deadline approaching, the Motor City Contractor Fund, along with its partners, the Gilbert Family Foundation, Invest Detroit, and Barton Mallow, is urging Detroit-based contractors to apply now for a business growth opportunity that is helping contractors participate more fully in Detroit's $5 billion revitalization investments. A, delivering over $2 million in capital support. B, facilitating nearly $2.5 million in lending. And C, distributing approximately $365,000 in grants. Strengthening Detroit business operations and increasing readiness in the Detroit contractor ecosystem, allowing program participants to compete for larger development opportunities. Here's why it matters. This holiday season, the Motor City Contractor Fund is spotlighting an important story often overlooked in Detroit's economic landscape: the persistent barriers small contractors face when trying to access capital, formalize financial systems, and build sustainable capacity. With its upcoming fourth cohort, the Contractor Fund is creating opportunities for contractors to achieve business growth while providing them with capital, technical assistance, and a powerful network that positions them for long-term success. Here's the quote. This story matters because the success of Detroit contractors directly contributes to the strength and growth of Detroit's neighborhoods. Capacity building and access to capital aren't abstract ideas. They're directly determining whether a small business contractor can hire, acquire equipment, or take on their biggest project yet, said Shanae Jackson, the program manager at the Contractor Fund. Contractors accepted into the upcoming cohort have a chance at all of the game-changing access of previous cohorts and more. The program is designed for Detroit contractors who are ready to strengthen compliance, financial systems, operational structure, and competitive positioning. Detroit contractors can apply at www.motorcitycontractorfund.org. Again, all Detroit contractors can apply at www.motorcitycontractorfund.org. We'll be right back. Have you ever dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Authentically Detroit Podcast Network is here to make those dreams come true. Formerly known as the Deep Network and located inside the Stoudemire, the Authentically Detroit Podcast Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your idea off of the ground. Just visit authenticallydet.com and send a request through the contact page. Welcome back to Authentically Detroit. For Hot Takes, Michigan quickly deletes government chats, raising transparency concerns. This is by Simon Schuster at Bridge, Michigan. Want to know what the top Michigan economic development officials were chatting about online as their office was raided by Attorney General Dana Nessel in June amid an earmark embezzlement investigation? Or what state officials and employees were telling each other as President Donald Trump returned to office in January? Many of those communications may be permanently shielded from public view under a state government policy to automatically delete communications through Microsoft Teams, a communication and collaboration platform widely used in Lansing. State government agencies delete those chats after 30 days, meaning they generally are no longer available to the public through the Michigan Freedom of Information Act. Emails, by comparison, are retained for 7 years and remain available through public records requests. A spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Technology, Management, and Budget, which oversees most of the state's technology systems, said the quick deletions were for storage reasons, not hiding information from the public. Bridge, Michigan discovered the issue earlier this year when the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget denied a reporter's FOIA request for Teams chats about Trump's return to office. An October request for online chats during the June raid of the MEDC offices was similarly denied because the information requested does not exist, according to a government response to a Bridge, Michigan request. Michigan's open records law does not mandate how long state and local governments must hold on to records, meaning the policy to automatically delete online chats after 30 days does not directly violate the statute. But it certainly violates the spirit of transparency intended under the law, said Dirk Wilcox, a senior attorney with the Free Market-Oriented Mackinac Center for public policy. Here is what I would say about this, just as a journalist. I don't like public records being deleted at all. I want to be able to skim with a fine-tooth comb through public records that go back as long as we are able to get them back. Now, the other interesting thing is that Donna and I had a conversation about FOIA laws also not applying to the executive branch of government here in the state of Michigan. That means that we cannot FOIA Governor Whitmer's records, her emails, or anything like that, right? And right now, the Republicans in the state legislature are making a big stink about some of her ties to MEDC and some of her appointments there and its foundation and how some of those funds have been allocated from the budget, which is why we're seeing this large rescission package in Lansing right now. And so they're crying foul, right? But what I am coming to understand is that no administration, regardless of party, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, wants to be subject to FOIA laws in the executive branch when they hold that executive seat. And so Republicans are crying amok right now. But when there was a push during the Snyder administration, there was, oh, no, right? Same thing with the Whitmer administration. The Democrats do not want, well, some do, but the party at large and the governor at large, does not want records to be FOIAable. And I find that highly problematic as we are supposed to be living in a democratic society where all of this stuff is supposed to be open. As a journalist, I see it my duty to hold to account the power structures that govern our everyday lives. And so without access to do that, without access to the records, without access to the emails, without access to the teams, it becomes that much harder. We're still able to do our job, right? But it becomes really, really hard. And then, even at a local level, if we FOIA something from the mayor's office or the city, sometimes we get slapped with like exorbitant fees, right? Right. The Detroit Free Press ended up suing the city before because they got a invoice. To receive records, you need to pay like over $100,000 to get these records because of the time, And so, so there are ways around it. There are lawsuits. There are ways to do reporting around it. But, and I know that this is a really, really popular administration. I know that we have a really, really popular governor. But that should not circumvent transparency concerns. And I think that Michiganders and journalists who are covering the state capitol, including the executive's office, have reason for concern. And so that's going to wrap up Hot Takes. If you have stories that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can email us at authenticallydetroit on gmail.com, or you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We'll be right back with Georgella and Antonice. Interested in renting space for corporate events, meetings, conferences, social events, or resource fairs? The MASH Detroit Small Business Hub is a 6,000 square feet space available for members, residents, and businesses and organizations. To learn more about rental options at MASH Detroit, contact Nicole Perry at nperry@ecn-detroit.org or 313-331-3485. Welcome back to Authentically Detroit, everybody. After nearly 5 decades of she don't look like she's been around for over 5 decades.
Good, okay?
Good, black don't crack, of shaping Detroit's civic, corporate, and community narratives. Georgella Muirhead, a trailblazer in public relations and communications, will retire at the end of 2025. Her retirement marks the culmination of an extraordinary career defined by leadership, integrity, and impact, and ushers in a bold chapter for 98Forward, one of Michigan's most experienced and respected strategic PR and communications firms. Muirhead began her career in public service as communications director for the cities of Ann Arbor, East Lansing, and Southfield. She later spent 8 years leading the City of Detroit's communications department, where she managed a 32-member team and directed citywide messaging, media relations, and major events, including Pope John Paul II's visit to Detroit and the Detroit Pistons championship celebrations. Under her leadership, the city launched influential campaigns such as No Crime Day and the award-winning Devil's Night Community Engagement Initiative. This extensive government experience shaped her inclusive, strategic, and results-driven approach to public relations and community engagement, an approach she successfully carried into the private sector, managing high-profile projects such as the Detroit presidential debates. Following her impactful tenure at Detroit City Hall, where she served under mayors Coleman A. Young and Dennis Archer, Muirhead co-founded Berg Muirhead and Associates in 1998 with the late, great Bob Berg. Together, they built one of Detroit's most respected communications firms, known for its deep community ties, trusted relationships, and unwavering commitment to telling authentic stories. As 98Forward enters this next year, the firm remains anchored in the principles that have defined it for nearly 30 years: authenticity, strategy, and impact. With a Detroit soul and national reach, the agency continues to lead with purpose, telling the stories that move communities, conversations, and the industry forward. I am on the other side of comms, on the journalism side, but of course we all fawn over Georgella Muirhead. I am so excited to be able to be in conversation with you. Now, I read a lot.
Because I had a good PR team.
You have a great PR team. You live more life than any of us can imagine living. Tell me, what was missing from what I read?
I've had a chance to think about it a bit. And one of the things that occurred to me, and you're out there all the time, you can tell me, what other PR firm in the region do you know by name key PR practitioners? But you know Antonice, you know Brittany, because we just don't bring practitioners in to just work for the agency. We bring people in to really make a career, to make an impact. It's not about me. It's not about Maryland. It's about who you leave behind, the impact. And I'm so proud of the practitioners that I've had a chance to interact with. Goodness, going all the way back to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, going all the way back to Ann Arbor. You know, you're saying something that I'm also really, really passionate about, and that is building a bench for succession. Has that always been important to you?
It became important because I needed that bench. Here I was out in Ann Arbor, and I thought about this too. You know, I'm working for a PR practitioner, but she never saw me as being a possible practitioner. She never guided me. She never showed me anything to do, how you do this, what you might look for. So I had to come to Detroit to find, quite frankly, one of the only Black practitioners that I've ever met at that time, Jerry Lundy, just to understand how this business worked. And, I was thinking about this, and I may have mentioned it to Antonice. I didn't know if the questions I were asking were just crazy questions, or I just didn't know the code. I didn't know. I didn't even know what I didn't know. And so not having somebody to ask really impacted me. So I decided right then and there, if I got a chance to be a person someone could ask, they could call me up, they could come work for me, but it shouldn't be that hard as a Black girl to try to learn how to get into public relations.
Yeah, talk about being a Black girl trying to break into this sector way back when. What was that like?
It was lonely.
Yeah.
Again, people didn't see a Black young girl as a possible PR practitioner. Like I was working for somebody that I realized was a PR practitioner, but she never said, why don't you try to write this press release, or this is how this connects, or whatever. So, but then she went on maternity leave, and I went and told my boss, I can do her job where she's gone. I had to kind of find my own ways to get noticed and to do things. And government's like that. Pretty much, if you're in government, they work you to death. If you were sort of going through what Coleman Young had me going through, that's probably 3 or 4 people now.
Yeah.
It was me. And Bob.
Yep. And Bob
but you were
Burke.
expected to be able to connect all these dots. But it was just hard because people just didn't see you in that role. And so when I saw Jerry, I said, oh, this is something that maybe I could do. This is something that maybe might be a career, not just a job, but a career. And so I started building from there. But the best bench builder, well, actually, I won't say that. I was very blessed to have a lot of bench builders. I've told Antonice this story. When I was working for the city of Ann Arbor, for the city of Ann Arbor, I had a chance to go work for the city of East Lansing because they were doing recruitment, and that was when, affirmative action was a real thing. And so for any job they had, they just looked for people to be representative. So at least when they've selected someone, they could say, oh, we checked that box. But I was lucky enough to get offered the job. So my boss then, who happened to be the first Black city manager, Cy Murray, first black
Of
city
East
manager.
Lansing.
He was city manager for Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor, gotcha.
And he was the first black city administrator in Michigan.
Wow.
And so that was my boss. And he kind of was thinking, well, you don't seem real excited about taking this job. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to, I'm not sure. I'm kind of in Ann Arbor, living in Ypsilanti. So he said, well, okay, what if I held your job for you for 6 months? Would that give you the confidence to try this out? Now, who does that?
No one.
Government job.
She told me
That
that
does
was
not
Government
happen.
job. He told me he would hold my government job open for me for 6 months if I would go try it. And I did. That gave me the confidence because I was a young mother, a young wife. You just don't jump up and go someplace you don't know anything about. What if I lose my job? I could have stayed in Ann Arbor and retired.
Exactly.
But he gave me the confidence, and I went on, and from there I just kept going. But a bench builder, he was a trailblazer, and he saw potential in me and decided to get engaged. If he hadn't offered me that, I might still be in Ann Arbor.
Were public relations a part of universities and colleges, concentrations and majors?
Not
Like
really.
I went to Brittany Brown is a really good friend of mine. We went to Eastern Michigan together, right?
I spent some time at Eastern.
There was a PR concentration within the media communications school, right? Same school that housed journalism. I'm like, was that always the case?
No, not at all.
So
It wasn't that way.
how did you learn this stuff?
Because I just like doing things different.
Yes.
And so I was in
Yeah.
school. I was taking, it wasn't even journalism there. It was probably still called an English major,
Oh, yeah.
when I was at Eastern. But I was taking classes, and I had a writing course. And it must have been a feature writing course or something. I was like, what am I going to write about? And Ann Arbor was bringing in the Briarwood Mall. First mall
crazy, right?
We stayed at Briarwood.
That was one of my
okay?
first jobs. was at Briarwood.
There were cornfields where Briarwood Mall was
Yeah.
going in.
Goodness.
And so it was a big deal. I thought, well, this could make a story. So I was very gutsy. I called up, the manager, the general manager, whoever was at Briarwood, and I said, I'm the editor of the City of Ann Arbor's employee newsletter. I want to do a feature story. So he said, sure, come on out. So I went out, I interviewed him, I took pictures. And so the one thing that I was the information clerk when I started. So I was at the front desk. You would see me when you came into City Hall. That's how I met Al Allen and Doris
the
Biscoe, because they were
legendary-
Yeah.
they were street
Doris
reporters.
Biscoe.
Right.
Oh
But
my
they were
God,
street
names.
reporters. So they
Yeah.
would come into Ann Arbor to do stories. And we
And
just
Al
got to
Allen
be
loved the
friends.
streets. He never wanted to be off the
I'm
street.
laughing.
And we got to be friends.
Yeah.
And but there was an employee newsletter. And I would do the newsletter. And back then it was, who got married, who got a promotion. But I could do anything with the newsletter because nobody cared about it. It was the employee newsletter. So I decided I'm going to do a feature story. So I did this
Briarwood.
feature story on Briarwood, the whole big thing.
Yeah.
Featured, whole thing on Briarwood. And people loved it. And my boss, he said, well, this is different, So that kind of got me some attention. So I started doing that on other things I cared about. I was very emotional. I would get very passionate about stuff.
Good. But
part of it.
But one of the things that you said that I am holding on to and clinging to is that, in the beginning you were figuring it out and you didn't know the code. But in the midst of you learning the code because you didn't know it, you were breaking down,
Making it up.
while also breaking down norms that folks had gotten used to. It's like, no, why are we doing it like this? I'm doing it this way. Oh, this is the code. This is how you're supposed to do it. Well, I learned how to do it
like
this way. Antonice, I want to come to you because, as you can see, I can dote on Georgella.
Oh, I can too. I've already
all
interviewed
day.
her, so
you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I want you to share more or share of your experience being Madam President.
Okay.
Newly elected. I'm
PRSA.
sorry, we breaking news here. The newly elected president of PRSA for Detroit or the state for
Detroit.
the city of Detroit. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
But you've been trained. You've been mentored.
Yes,
Talk about it.
absolutely. I think a couple of things. I didn't get to start my career here, so like when I got here and I got to learn about Georgella, I'm like, why didn't I know about her beforehand? And to your point earlier, PR really wasn't a major. I think we only had like 2 PR classes when I was at State, and it was actually under the business school. They put it under like marketing and business. It wasn't even a part of communications. And I was a journalism kid, so it was weird. So that's the first thing. The next part is I think I learned so much over the last 4 years because this was the time where I got thrust into leadership. Like this, Georgella in Maryland trusted me. It's like, okay, you want to be vice president? All right, do it. And they allowed me to do that. But I think creating that kind of space, that opportunities that maybe they didn't actually get, and they're providing it for this next generation to actually have leadership. We still are a very small percentage of leadership roles, being a Black person, but especially being a Black woman.
Yeah.
So them creating space like that and having that was critical, but also those tough lessons too. Like it was hard. I still learn every day. Actually,
Tell me about the time when it was hard. Tell me when you had to get checked.
Well, I think it's the part of becoming a leader in a space that is already hard to navigate because of just who you are and how you're presented in that space. You have to be hyper aware, and I think having that hyper awareness from someone that's navigated it already at an even more extreme level provides perspective. Where it's like I might get a little like, well, no, this isn't what it is, and then I get a shift in perspective because now I have to listen to what it is that she's saying to me and the reason why she's saying it. And I think that's something that I can't even fully explain. Like I just appreciate it so much. I haven't even told her this. It's very invaluable to kind of get those types of lessons that aren't harsh either.
Yeah.
I think Georgella has a way of leadership. It's coming from love. Georgella has a way of leadership from my perspective because I'm like one of the last of the babies, if that makes sense. It's gonna be clear and direct, and you're gonna understand the perspective, but you got to sit and talk about it and think through it. Like I take notes when I talk to Georgella. Literally, to make sure I'm taking in what it is that she's saying, because there's so many of us that don't get that type of experience and opportunity to gain so much knowledge and wisdom and just lived experience that can be poured into now what my leadership and perspective and growth. And now I have to go back and do the same thing as a leader too, which is a big part of my why is really lifting as I climb. So I'm getting all of this nurturing and this, this food to give it up to the next. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
And for a long time, and I still think just as a country, we do this really horribly. But Black folks also, succession is not a part of our, the way we do stuff. I mean, we stay in for till we die.
Yeah.
No, like I come from.
And no one will know what to do after.
No one would know
the
what
fact.
to do after. You know what I mean? Like I come from the church world. That's my family. It's like my grandfather was like, retire. This is a calling. You don't retire.
You don't retire.
It's like, sir, yes, you do.
No, facts.
Yeah. And so congratulations on retirement the second time.
I was just about to say something because you're right. They don't retire.
So you tried this before. What made you come back?
2 things.
Yeah.
Marilyn, which is one of my best friends, and an adopted sister, literally, called me up and said she needed me. And I was pissed. That was the other thing. Bob was the cool, calm, quiet, I was the war concierge. So
I never had the pleasure of meeting Bob ever.
oh my goodness, yes. But there was some turmoil. We had sold the company. We were prepared to walk away, and there were some inner problems within the organization that took place. And quite honestly, I just didn't think it was fair.
Yeah.
And I thought it was calculated, and it didn't take a rock science to figure out what the ultimate goal was. And so Marilyn called me. We got into crisis mode, and I think this was a Friday. And in Monday's Cranes, it said that someone did not be named had left, and I had returned. And we were moving forward from there because
I think I remember that article.
we had to
That was when
stabilize.
I first started, too.
I'm very crisis focused. I mean, if there's something that has to happen, it has to happen.
Yeah.
We had to stabilize, and we weren't going to let a hiccup take a company that I put a lot of blood, sweat,
Talk about scaling that mountain, right? From this moment of being in crisis to stabilizing your baby.
Well, you have to have a lot of faith in yourself and faith in the people that work around you. This was never about the ability to do the job. It was about the perception of the ability to do the job. And one thing that I often tell them that gray hair helps a lot is it helps people accept the fact that this is something that's been done before and you can do it again. And that gave the breathing space for the rest of the agency to stabilize. The code of public relations is a little bit like that. And that's why it's so important that folks like Antonice and B are recognizable names.
Yes.
Because that's the code of the industry.
Yeah.
And I think we do that. And I couldn't think of, quite frankly, any agency of any hue that does it to the same degree we do.
Yeah.
Because I understand how important that transition is going to be. Mayor Young was perhaps, you talk about benches.
Yeah.
That was a big bench.
I was going to get to him because, everybody want to hear about first off, Detroiters love Coleman Young.
Yes.
And Detroiters love you and Bob Berg. Talk about when you first met Coleman Young, Mayor Young. Yeah.
I first met him in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
With the craziness I would do in Ann Arbor. We started this group called Michigan Black Public Officials. But it was all children. It was me, my friends, assistant city managers, Robert Bob, who became emergency manager. Yeah. He was an assistant city manager, I think, in Kalamazoo at the town.
Wow.
I mean, at that time.
It's crazy, right?
But we were all children. So we formed this organization because there weren't any people that looked like us, we thought. And so we said we're going to have a conference. So we decided to invite Mayor Young. And so, when he got this letter, he had to know it was coming from children because he knew every public official in the state of Michigan. But he accepted. And he came in to be our public speaker, our keynote speaker. And I was in charge of PR. So he came in. I remember this entourage. He had security.
His executive protection unit.
Right. He had staff people and stuff. I mean, he came in, I was like, oh, my God, it would be so great if one day I could work for the city of Detroit. And I met him, and he was so gracious and everything. That was a long gust of gold, way down the road. Well, maybe I guess it would have been maybe 8-10 years later when I was in Southfield. I got a call from this guy called Bob Berg. And he said he was the mayor's press secretary. And he wondered if I would have time to meet with him. And so he said, I can take you to lunch. And I said, shoot, free lunch? How wrong could I be? I want to go to Merriweather's because that was my favorite.
In Southfield. Oh, yeah. Fancy. It's the bread for me, Georgella.
Teacup bread.
It's the bread.
He knows the teacup
I
bread.
know.
So Bob and I met at Merriweather's, and we really hit it off. I mean, we just clicked. And literally, we started becoming best friends from that moment on. And the way it worked in the city at that time is Bob was the mayor's press secretary.
Yes.
So he controlled the message. He worked with the mayor. I mean, he was
And
legendary.
everyone knew him. He was public.
Right.
He was very public, too.
Right.
Yeah.
I had the bodies because I directed the Department of Public Information. And then it was a centralized department. That's how you get 32 people.
Yeah.
Because you had the photographers, you had the writers, you had the videographers, we had graphic designers. They were all on my immediate staff. Then I had a union print shop on the east side of Detroit. And I had like a Kinko's, my own Kinko's system in the basement of City Hall. So it was it was a crazy operation. So literally when they decided they wanted to do something, it was my team that pretty much executed it.
Yeah.
And Bob and I strategized it together. So he recommended to the mayor that I come, that he interview me. And the mayor and I hit it off. The mayor's pastor was my pastor.
Who was his pastor?
Charles Butler.
Oh.
Who was a prominent pastor at the time. And then he told, my pastor gave me this advice that probably at the time wasn't that funny. He says, if you go to work for the mayor, they're going to think you're his girlfriend.
That was a real thing. That was a real thing. There's so much speculation. Yes.
However, it's called How Do You Work
You
for
weren't
the
the
Mayor?
only one, but go ahead.
But I was never considered a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Maybe a goddaughter, but never a girlfriend. But again, he was just working with Bob was an experience that we took on to create the organization. But getting back to the mayor's role, he was so confident in himself that he didn't mind pushing others out. A lot of people now don't do that. They're so afraid that they're going to take their glory.
Light. Yeah.
But he wasn't like that. So you could be standing there and, just listening to the announcement, that he's making. And the cardinal, for example, was there talking to the mayor, and he's saying, well, who's going to coordinate this visit for the Pope? And the mayor was also, he liked jokes. And so he would always tease me about my name. So he would never call me by my name the first time. It would start off, Georgina, George. Then he finally would get to Georgella. He says, Georgella will, and I'm still in the crowd, will do what?
Yeah. Pope John Paul is coming.
Right.
That's what you're doing. Yes, girl.
What I loved also about the mayor is you never wanted to disappoint him.
Yeah.
So if this is the role I'm going to have, then I'm going to do it.
It's a great leader
to
when the folks who work for him don't want to be disappointing to him.
Exactly.
Right. Oh my God. Why would you? I mean, this. When I first came to Detroit, I was legendary because I have no idea where I am. I have the worst sense of direction in the world. And somehow the mayor heard about my poor sense of direction. So I was trying to get over to the east side to the print shop. And he called and he asked where I was, and they said, well, she's going to the print shop. And he wanted to know how long I'd been gone, probably a couple hours.
Oh, goodness.
So when I came out of the print shop, there was mayor security there. So I'm like, well, where's the mayor? The mayor's coming to the print shop. They were laughing. They said, no, he knew you're probably lost. So he sent us to make sure you got back down the city.
Oh,
Who wouldn't
Yes.
spend day and night working for a boss like that?
Yeah.
That, would sit you out front, but also would care about the little things.
The little things.
Like whether or not you were wandering around the east side of Detroit. I might still be wandering around.
We love the east side. Come and wander. You're welcome on the east side. Listen, we're going to take our last break for the show. And when we come back, I want to ask Georgella about her perspective around how the communications landscape has changed and how important the invocation of story is in how we proliferate in our society. We'll be right back. Detroit 1 Million is a journalism project started by Sam Robinson that centers a generation of Michiganders growing up in a state without a city with 1 million people. Support the only independent reporter covering the 2025 Detroit mayoral race through the lens of young people. Good journalism costs. Visit Detroit1million.com to support Black independent reporting. Welcome back to Authentically Detroit. I'm here with Georgella Muirhead and Antonice Strickland. We are talking about Georgella's legendary career here in the city of Detroit. I want to ask you, because you've been around for a long time. You're the press release said 50 years, and I just want to reemphasize that you don't look like you've been around long enough to do 50 years of anything. But I want to get your hot take on how you feel Detroit's communications landscape has evolved over the course of your career. What is its current condition, and are you satisfied with where it is and where it's going?
It's interesting. They're both advantages and changes that I like, and in many ways it makes things more difficult. Mm-hmm. When I started, there were traditional forms of media. There was only 247 and maybe 62. There was the News, the Freep, and the Michigan Chronicle. Mm-hmm. But you knew your landscape. You knew how
your people.
You knew your people, and you knew how you would get your message out. And there was a competitiveness, so that you didn't have one publication doing a story and not the other publication holding them in check. Mm-hmm. Or the same thing with the news agencies. At that time, on the 11th floor, there was a whole section just for media. They were always in the building.
They put us in the basement.
Yeah. But they were there. There were city beat reporters. Yeah. You knew the city beat reporters. And so, and of course, we would have arguments and disagreements.
Absolutely.
And sometimes flat out wars with the media. And
Comey Young especially, yes.
You need a warrior sometimes. We were Waganda. We need
Here we go. Literally, she said for real.
We needed the Black Panther.
Y'all had vibranium.
Look.
And people were coming to get it. The water department.
Everybody.
Everybody was coming
Brooks
for our
Patterson.
stuff. Belle Isle. Nothing was safe. But he would pick his moments. But we knew what we had to deal with. But because we would have these wars, is why we got into why we really got into engagement. Mm-hmm. Because I had to figure out a way of how I could talk to city residents if I couldn't talk through the media. So that's where you start learning about, okay, what can you do? One of those things, again, just like the employee newsletter, I had a print shop. And my print shop had full-time employees that got paid no matter what they did. We had stocks of paper and ink, because over the years we had been doing projects and you'd have leftover stock. So literally I could print anything. I didn't have to go to council for budget. It was something I controlled. So we started doing direct newsletters and flyers and posters with Devil's Night. Remember the posters with the eyes? Because we were able to.
I'll never forget.
Hey, everybody got that message. Won me a silver amble. But talking directly to residents, getting that message out, getting everyone on the same page. To some degree, it was easier because we were only dealing with certain specific media. Yeah. Now, everybody's a journalist.
Everyone is.
They're not, though. I want to state for the record that they ain't, though.
They're not.
But they have access.
Yes.
They have the ability to get their message out.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. That makes it a lot more difficult. In some ways, it makes it easier, but it makes it more difficult. Mm-hmm. It's harder to get your clients and whether they're elected or not, to really focus on talking to direct journalists when they know they can go on a podcast or they can go on social media and make their own announcements. Just look at nationally the landscape. How many people announce they're running for something on social media?
Yeah,
Right.
themselves.
Right,
Themselves.
themselves.
Yeah, not through
Yeah.
the media.
You know, so in some ways you can get your message out, but it also means that the message is more splintered.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to get everybody on the same page. Shoot,
Yeah.
right now, everybody don't even agree what the facts are anymore. I mean, it used to, at least when we were fighting with you guys, we all agreed on what we were fighting about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it would
Yeah.
say, you know, we would say, well, the mayor would say, well, I think it's on the west side. And then Free Press might say, no, it's the east side. Got somebody over here, Channel 2 saying, no, it's downtown. You know, I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that you
It
can't
is
even
nuts.
agree on the facts.
On
Yeah.
facts. It is
So
nuts.
it is, in some ways, it's nice to have those avenues, but in other ways, it's more difficult.
Can you talk about the invocation of story in this country and how it affects the way we proliferate throughout life? If we are like we've been taught to believe this story of America, this revolutionary story that's coming out from the British thumb without the truth being told around indigenous massacre, without the truth being told around what happened in 1619, bringing enslaved Africans here, right? And right now, what we are experiencing on part of the federal administration is a story being told
Right.
that hopefully he hopes that society will buy because it's being told to us over and over again. It's why I'm a journalist, because I understand how powerful story is and how it is the writing down of a thing that proliferates, right? And lives beyond you. It's going to live beyond you. It's going to live beyond me. Talk about being in the driver's seat of shaping Detroit's story for so many years. This city that we love, this city that we care about, the city that we are in relationship with.
You know, what I loved most about working directly for the city, and what I still try to do as we work a lot about the city, is I always wanted Detroit to have a win. So things like Devil's Night, to me, wasn't about just changing the story. It was really about changing it through a movement that would provide a better result for Detroit. I told you I'm always going to get emotional about things. I get very charged up about them. But one of the things that drove me was when I first came to work for the city. Back then, every appointee, every employee was a part of Devil's Night. So we patrolled like everybody else. We were in the cars going up and down the street. And I was just driving up and down the street with my patrol area. And then when I was going home, one of the buildings I had been protecting, it was a factory, was on fire. Off of the freeway, I saw it, and I just burst into tears. You know, I spent all this time, and now it's in fire. And then we would have journalists that would come from Japan and all around the world,
All around and the nation.
to come to Detroit
to cover Devil's Night,
to cover
to see
Devil's
the fires.
Night.
Yeah.
And to me, that just was so unfair. I'm a big proponent of what's fair about Detroit residents. That to me was just an unfair portrayal. Yeah. So changing that narrative was very passionate driven. And I try to think about, if I don't believe it, how are you going to believe it? What things would make me believe we could change this? What messages? How do we have to get these messages out? And so the year we finally were able to break it, you may recall, we really got the message out to everyone. That was, when kids had the curfew, and we would always patrol, but we figured out a way to get people who were home to participate too. So that was the idea, that you put the signs on the buildings so that ladies, or neighbors could sit on their porch and watch the vacant building across the street. They'd have to go up and down. They could participate just that way. Children, I was so proud when one of the TV stations was doing a story on, how's this Devil's Night going to look, and what are you supposed to do? And they stopped a group of kids and they said, what are you supposed to do? They said, we have to be home by 6 o'clock. I was like, yes, you got it. You know what the curfew is. But when you get everybody in the same direction, and that year we did, and you can change things. And we started really putting a handle on these fires. And to me, it's all about Detroit getting a win. Same thing with the Pistons parade. I mean, I love the Pistons, and Isaiah ended up being a good friend and whatever. But when we decided to do a parade, it was scary because the message about parades in Detroit was chaos because of the Tigers thing. So, Lord, how are we going to get through a parade and not get, slammed on it? And that's where the idea of having the athletes up on floats, came from, so that people could see them. They didn't have to push to see because all they wanted to do was see their heroes. The heroes felt confident interacting with the audience because they felt safe. And we ended up sending a national, it was a new way to do sports parades. People responded to it. We got great coverage, but Detroit got a win. It's always about Detroit getting a win, not a black eye. That's the driving force. And to do that, you just have to be creative.
And you want to know what has slowly began to happen over the years, and there are many progenitors of Detroit story, you included, is when I go out of town and I say I'm from Detroit, the reaction has changed.
Yes.
The reaction is different. And I love that. We got to close out. But Antonice, I actually want to give you the last word. Because, I don't know why, but I sense in my spirit there's something that you haven't said to Georgella yet that you probably need to say.
Oh my, is this therapy? What are we doing? No.
Yeah, that you probably need to say as she makes her exit. So I'm gonna allow space for you to talk to your mentor.
On top of the things I just mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to say something to Antonice.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
you don't know how proud I am that the first experience I had with public relations in Detroit was attending a Public Relations Society of America meeting to see Jerry Lundy as the only other Black practitioner I was aware of. And now my colleague is the incoming president for PRSA. I am just so proud. And then we have another colleague that's on the board.
Yes,
the foreshadowing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just full circle.
Full circle.
Oh. I think I'll kind of reiterate some things I mentioned during our annual holiday party, which actually turned into a full Georgella love fest. Literally, she had a museum. It was beautiful. It
was crazy,
and she looked fabulous. But I think I definitely would like to just reiterate this. Thank you. I think you hear it a lot, and I know a lot of us are so thankful. We did a whole thing for her at our PRSA annual meeting this year as well, too, which she was so surprised. That was a win, for sure.
A standing ovation.
Standing ovations. We did all the things. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for always being you. Thank you for being... I don't know, just kind of always being so creative, teaching us to think outside the box. And if we're not, she makes sure we know, like, you should go back and think about this. Or, like, you didn't think about it like this, though. What if we tried to do that? Like, those are things that stick with us, that anytime we're developing a plan, or how she says she had a PR team behind this, like, these are things I've just learned over the last few years from Georgella. Like, I've been doing PR, but kind of those little nuances of how to think about it, what to include, how to make it stick, how to make sure that we put her on a press tour, that people did need to hear about who Georgella was. And that took thinking outside of and I think I'm just thankful. I'm grateful. I can't wait to continue to tell the next generation about Georgella Muirhead, and, this is legacy, continuation. And I'm just grateful that I get to be in your atmosphere and kind of continue that journey. So
Antonice, what's next for 98Forward?
I mean, we're just going to keep on going. It's up from here.
Mean,
we're going to continue to, obviously, like I mentioned, foundationally, the standards that were set by Georgella and Bob. She always would relay to us like they never wanted to be an agency that just had an office in Detroit. They always wanted to be in Detroit, a part of Detroit. So that's never going to change. We're always going to make sure things that we do throughout the city is intentional, and that we get that done. Even if we begin to expand, which we hope to grow, our client base and continue to diversify who we work with. But Detroit will always be home. Detroit will always be that foundational space. But yeah, we're just going to continue to grow, build, do some amazing projects, campaigns, and continue to come and sit down and meet with you and Donna
it.
when she's here. But yeah, just continue to do that great work that was, set foundationally from Georgella and Bob. So.
Congratulations to you, Georgella.
Well,
Congratulations
you so
to 98 Forward. If you have topics or guests that you want discussed on the show or on the show, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and X, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. We want to thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, remember to love on your neighbor. Happy holidays.